Namaskar everyone, welcome to Next IS. I hope your preparation for Prelims 2026 is going well. To aid to your preparation for the upcoming Prelims examination, we'll be covering the news items from the Indian Express, the Hindu and PIB from the past week, that is from 2nd February to the 7th of February 2026. So let us move ahead and quickly look at the most important article which you should have covered as far as Prelims is concerned. So I have chosen 6 topics, articles that were featured in the Hindu, the Indian Express, and from the PIB itself. So the first article says that 84% of waste pickers are from SC, ST, OBC communities. So the Union government has released data regarding the waste pickers also for the very first time, and that is why the news item becomes important and the related scheme to it is also being covered. The second item is about the conservationist apprehensive of the turtle trails. So recently in the union budget, some turtle trails were being announced as regards to olive ridley turtles. So what are the apprehensions? What is the status of olive ridley turtles? What are the various breeding sites for it? We'll be covering in this article. The third is about the Denotified tribe, that they seek constitutional recognition and a separate census entry as far as the upcoming census 2027 is concerned. So we'll be talking about who are the Denotified tribe and what are the concerns. The fourth article is regarding the transaction tax hiked on futures and options to curb speculation. So recently we saw in the Union Budget 2026, Honorable Finance Minister hiked the security taxation tax from 0.02% to 0.05%. That is a steep hike of 150% per se. So we'll be looking at what is meant by STT, what is FAO, FNO, and other aspect relating to the article. The fifth article is regarding CCI, Competition Commission of India. What is the legal backing behind it and what its role in the recently IndiGo fiasco which happened in the airline sector in India in December 2025. The last article which we'll be covering, which featured in today's the Indian Express, was regarding IIT-Bombay researchers overcome key bottlenecks in CAR T cell cancer therapy. So we'll be looking at what were the basic limitation of the CAR T cell therapy technology per se and how IIT-Bombay proposes to overcome it. So let us move ahead. So the first article which we'll be covering is from the Hindu. It says that 84% of waste pickers are from SC, ST, OBC groups, says the government. So this is for the first time the government came out with such a data, and it revealed that 84% of the total waste pickers, they belonged to the aggrieved community, that is SC, ST and OBC. So that is a short summary which is provided. I've tried to highlight the important sections of the article as such. You can pause in for a moment and quickly look. Fine. So let us know what were the key findings with regards to the articles. So in total 1.52 lakh persons were being profiled as such as part of the exercise. These were validated by the urban local bodies also. If we look at the social profiling of the candidates which were being surveyed, so out of the total 1.52 lakhs, approximately 92,000, that is a whooping 60.3%, that is nearly 2/3 of the people were from the SC community. So you can very well understand that majority of the persons are coming from a single category. The next were from the OBC category, 13.7%, that is approximately 21,000. Then ST community is also constituted 10.5%, that is approximately 16,000 something. Then general category stood at 10.7% and other communities constituted 4.8% of the total surveyed people, that was 1.52 lakhs. So that is the social category wise profiling of the persons who were surveyed. When we come out to the gender composition, we see that the males dominated the women as such in this exercise. So male were at 51% and women were slightly less at around 48.7, that is approximately 49%, with transgender persons also being engaged in this waste picker jobs and contributing to about 0.007%. There were also regional variations when it came across when it comes to such surveys. So we see that Delhi and Goa sorry, they had the majority of the workers, they were coming from the general category as such, whereas West Bengal, they had general category workers, again were outnumbered by the SC, ST, OBC combined. So that is something, a regional variation worth to be noting, which is in contrast to the original the nationwide wise data which came out. Fine. Talking about the occupational hazards, we see that there were 859 deaths that were reported during the sewer and septic tank cleaning since 2014. So clearly in past 11 to 12 years, we see approximately 860 deaths being reported during the period. So you can very well recognize the fact that how much hazardous such kind of jobs is. So because these are the reported figures. If we talk about the unreported figures which didn't come out, can be much higher or can be approximately as such, but these are startling figures because every life lost is valuable to us, and they should there should be proper implementation of the schemes, existing schemes as such, for preserving the life and liberty of individuals. Fine. So why we choose the article was about, because apart from the data which we got about, it was purely about the scheme at present which under the survey was done. That was the Namaste scheme. So what does Namaste stands for? Namaste stands for National Action for Mechanized Sanitation Ecosystem. So that is the full form which we are concerned with. What is the scheme type? So it's a central sector scheme, and it was primarily launched in 2023. Its duration period, implementation period, is from 2023-24 to 2025-2026. So for a period of 3 years, the scheme has been implemented, and it is coming to a completion. The first phase is coming to a completion in 2026, and thereby the scheme becomes important for our upcoming examination also, because we'll have a sample size enough to analyze and have an appraisal of the said scheme also. What is the aim? So it aims to eliminate hazardous manual cleaning of sewers and septic tanks through mechanization. So primary purpose of the scheme is to introduce mechanization in when it comes to such jobs. Which kind of jobs? Cleaning of sewers and septic tanks at first. So it is covering approximately 4,800 plus urban local bodies across India. Fine. It is going to replace the earlier self-employment scheme for rehabilitation of malware scavengers. Fine. So this was a previous scheme before Namaste, and the said scheme has replaced the erstwhile scheme also. Fine. So going ahead, we have the objective. So clearly this can be a statement based question in the exam as such. So the objective says formalization and rehabilitation of the sanitary workers, zero fatalities in sanitation work. The third is promotion of mechanized sanitation, that is no direct human contact. This is very necessary when it comes to dignified workers. Fine. Safety, dignity, health protection, and livelihood support. So these are the 4 objectives of the scheme. They can be taken into account, and you can use them to eliminate one of the options if occurring in the examination. Next are, who are the beneficiaries? So the first set of beneficiaries which were identified in the said statement was the sewer and septic tank workers. Fine. The SSWs. Then in the year 2024, waste pickers were also being added. So the present survey which happened is primarily concerned with those of waste pickers. So thereby when they were added in 2024, and that is our date. Next comes the implementing ministry and the agency. So Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment along with Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs is the implementing ministry, along with the implementing agency of National Safai Karamchari Finance and Development Corporation. So these are the ministries involved and the implementing agencies. You can very well note down this also. Next, the moot question which the article talks about is, it gives a definition, official definition of the waste picker, that is under the said scheme. So what the official definition says, it says they are the persons informally engaged in collecting and recovering what? Recyclable solid waste from streets, bins, dumps, processing or disposal facilities. So that is a very standard definition which is being given by the said scheme, and you should very well be noting this down so that whenever an option comes, you could be easily able to identify the official version from the government as such. Next, we can talk about what are the key components of the scheme. So it can be divided into two sections. First, we talked about in terms of beneficiaries. So the first beneficiary is for sewers and septic tank workers. So for them, and the second is for waste pickers, which were added in 2024. So for both of them, there will be digital profiling done through a mobile application. Here also enumeration and profiling will be done. Both will be provided with PPE kits and safety equipments. For waste pickers, the difference will be that they'll be provided with seasonal or need-based PPT kit. So they will be mandatorily provided, and they'll be provided with seasonal and need-based PPE kits. Fine. There will be the commonality between the two is that there will be health insurance under the Ayushman Bharat scheme, that is PMJ, and here also the same coverage will be extended to them. Fine. Occupational and safety training and skill upgradation would be done in case of sewer and septic tank workers. Occupational safety training because they are often involved in hazardous conditions, and skill upgradation so that they can employ and upgrade their skill and get out of the said hazardous condition also. Fine. When it comes to the first category, they'll also be given subsidized sanitation vehicles and equipments. In both cases, sanipreneurship via capital subsidy and training would be promoted. The same will be done here also. Capital subsidy for waste collection will be provided, vehicles and livelihood projects will be initiated. Fine. So that is about the two categories, how the beneficiaries will be benefited out of the said scheme will be done. Coming to the next article, the article talks about the apprehensions of various conservationists who are apprehensive because of the turtle trails which are being announced in the recent union budget by the Honorable Finance Minister as such. Fine. So what is the news? That the union budget announced development of turtle trails. What are turtle trails? We'll briefly look at in the upcoming slides. For which species is talking about? Olive ridley turtle nesting sites along the Odisha and Karnataka and Kerala. Fine. So this is there are some concerns which the conservationists are talking about, and we'll look at the apprehensions, what are the way outs, and we'll also look briefly about the olive ridley turtle, what is their conservation status, what are their what they are threatened from, and the way ahead. Fine. So let us move ahead. So the key facts which is coming from is what is the species involved? So we have talked about it's olive ridley turtle, which is protected under Schedule 1. We all know Schedule 1 of the WPA Act, Wildlife Protection Act 1972. Schedule 1 accords the highest conservation status to any species, and thereby olive ridley turtle also gains such a status. Fine. And these turtles, they require disturbance free beaches for aribada. So this is a very key term. You can be very well asked in examination what is meant by aribada, and aribada is mass nesting. Fine. For making ecotourism near nesting sites ecologically sensitive. Now the moot question is, which we began by asking, is what is meant by turtle trails. So these are the proposed ecotourism infrastructure near turtle nesting beaches. What they are aimed at? They are aimed at regulating tourist access to these nesting sites as such. Fine. So there will be certain turtle trails which will be developed near the Orissa coast, by the Ganjam coast and the Kendrapara coast, and along with Karnataka and Kerala boundary as such, also for the mass nesting activity of these olive ridley turtles, and the conservationists are apprehensive about those also. Fine. So let us quickly look at some of the key facts when it comes to the olive ridley turtle. So we talked about the major nesting sites in India. So the major nesting sites is Rishikulya Rukri coast in Odisha, Gahir Mata beach in the Bhitarkanika National Park, and the mouth of Devi river. So these are the three major nesting sites. First is Rishikulya coast, second is Gahirmata, and the third is the mouth of Devi river. Fine. One important fact is that the Gahirmata coast, that the Gahirmata Marine Sanctuary is world's largest rookery site of these olive ridley sea turtles per se. Fine. They are also known as the Pacific ridley sea turtle. They are the smallest and most abundant of all sea turtles found in the world. Fine. What is their preferred environment? So they are found in warm waters of Pacific, Atlantic and Indian Oceans. Fine. Their conservation status, IUCN Red List lists them as vulnerable. Wildlife Protection Act of India 1972, it accords it Schedule 1 status. Fine. And CITES also lists down it into Appendix 1, thereby indicating its importance and the threat perception it has. Fine. So what they are known for? They are known for their unique mass nesting, which is called Aribada, which we discussed in the previous slide also. What is this Aribada thing? So Aribada is where large number of female, thousands of female come together on the beach to lay eggs. So if you talk about what was the scale to which this mass nesting took place, so in 2023 to 24, nearly in 8 days, nearly 8 days, 7 lakh eggs were laid down by the females, out of which nearly 2 lakh hatched within the specified period. So you can very well imagine the scale at which this nesting, this phenomena Aribada occurs, and thereby it gains importance. Fine. Another feature, some of the features, because this is our guy, the olive ridley turtle. So UPSC nowadays has a tendency of asking species characteristics, some of its habit, maybe the gestation period as such. We have seen in case of elephant it being asked. We have seen in case of mushrooms it being asked. In case of butterflies, different butterflies it being asked. So olive ridley turtle, we'll quickly look at some of the trivial facts about it. So they are mainly carnivores, plus they are also omnivores as such, if you can extend. Fine. And they feed mainly on jellyfish, shrimp and other things. What is the gestation period? So the eggs, they hatch between 45 to 60 days depending on the temperature of the sand, the environment as such. Fine. What are the threats? This is very important. So the threats are that they are hunted for meat. They have a soft meat, thereby there is a lot of hunting going on. They are also hunt for their shell and other anthropogenic factor like fishing, trawlers, so they get caught up in the trawlers and other activities. What are the saving methods? So one should employ turtle excluding device in trawler nets, thereby protecting their natural habitat also. Fine. The turtle, it gets its name from the olive green coloration of its shell, thereby naming it as olive ridley turtle. Fine. Moving on to the next slide. What are the distribution where these turtles are found? So clearly we talked about the same in the previous slide also. We can see that they are found along the coast of Odisha as such. Fine. So we can see the Gahirmata Marine Sanctuary, mouth of Devi river and the Rishikulya near Bhitarkanika forest, Bhitarkanika sanctuary as such. We also see Chilika lake near about, the Gopalpura beach which has been accorded the blue certification. So what is this blue certification? Is it government based or is it is awarded by some private entity? You should go and look for it. I leave it for you to exercise that thing. So you can very well see that this stretch, all these stretch, these are also the nesting sites along the Odisha coast, but Gahirmata, mouth of Devi river and Rishikulya are the mass nesting sites. So here you will find the nesting taking place in number. Fine. So thereby this is the distribution along the coast. One more important thing which I like to point out here is about the rivers which are there. So keep in mind prominent rivers such as Subarnarekha, Baitarani, Brahmani, Mahanadi and Rishikulya. These have been asked in previous year question and thereby gain importance when it comes to the prelims examination. Fine. So we see that they are mainly found in warm waters of the Pacific, Atlantic and Indian Oceans. We discussed before also. Major nesting sites along the Odisha coast is Gahirmatha. We talked about that it's world's largest rookery. By rookery, that's also a keyword, we mean colony of breeding animals. Fine. Rishikulya, that is one of the largest. Remember that Gahirmatha is the world's largest and Rishikulya is also one of the largest. So that is the reference. And the mouth of river Devi. Features extending the features, we talked about they being omnivorous. They are solitary in nature. That means they prefer open ocean. They do not want to mix with other animals around. Okay? They prefer open ocean and they spend their entire lives in the ocean and migrate thousands of kilometers between feeding and mating grounds in the course of a year. So they are a very into kind of a person. They are not person per se, they are very into kind of animals and they prefer solitude. Fine. Maybe they are preparing for an examination of their own. So again, the moot question in line was, what are the conservationists apprehensive about? So what are their concerns? So conservationists, they highlighted that the mass nesting sites, they require minimal human disturbance. So these species are very sensitive to anthropogenic activities. The potential threats, they come from artificial lighting, tourist movement, mechanized boats and photography and flash use. So the nesting exercise of these turtles require a very peaceful and a calm environment, a particular habitat conditions in terms of temperature and the locality around is also necessary. But when it comes to tourism activities, like building these turtle trails as such, they can facilitate a rush of tourists to those place and thereby creating a human-animal kind of, human-wild kind of conflict as such in these areas and potentially declining the number when it comes to such nesting grounds. Fine. Photography as such is also being looked down because these flashes, they create disturbance for the females who are laying the eggs on the beach as such. Fine. What are they apprehensive about? So they say that these disturbances, they may affect their nesting behaviors, hatching orientation, because these creatures are light sensitive too. Fine. Concluding the part is about arribada. So it's a Spanish term which means arrival. So we can very well make out what does it means, and it refers to a synchronous mass nesting by these sea turtles. The last of the lot was rookery, where it is a nesting colony of turtles, and thereby we conclude this slide. Coming to the next article is about denotified tribes and their concerns. So the denotified tribes, they seek constitutional recognition and they demand a separate entry in Census 2027. So we have seen that as the exercise for the upcoming census in 2027 is approaching, there are different sections of people who are coming up with their own concerns, and as a natural corollary to that exercise, the denotified tribes also have come up with a difficulty of their own, which is very well being highlighted in the said article. Fine. So that is the news title, and why the thing was in news is also being discussed by the same thing. So who were the denotified tribes? So the denotified tribes, the story goes back to the colonial times. So during the period of British colonialism in India, Britishers found certain tribes to be very difficult to handle because of their ferocity and ferocity. Thereby they attributed them names and classified them as criminal tribes. So anybody being born into a particular tribe was treated as a criminal and attributed names as a criminal under the Criminal Tribes Act 1871, and thereby these tribes were implicated by birth. But when India gained independence in 1947, the said government was sensitive enough to recognize their concern and it denotified them. Fine. whereby the act was also repealed in 1852 and they were denotified. Because they were denotified, thereby the said tribes were known as denotified tribes as such. Fine. Because despite denotification, many of these tribes are continuing to face the social stigma, exclusion and economic marginalization, thereby these are demanding a separate entry column in the upcoming census. Fine. So the historical background I've already talked about. The Criminal Tribes Act, how they wanted to control the nomadic and the semi-nomadic communities, how they were labeled criminal by birth only. Fine. So because of that attribution of criminal by birth, they were subjected to forced registration, surveillance, restricted movement throughout the territory, mandatory settlement in camps. Fine. Again, we have already talked about post-independence, how these communities were denotified, hence they got the name. Coming to the population part of it, they are estimated to be nearly 6 to 10 crore of denotified tribe people in India, although there is no official estimate as such, because the census exercise do not have any column for these tribes as such, and thereby the demand. Their spread is across concentration in Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Gujarat, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. UP alone accounts for nearly 6 crore of these denotified tribes spread across the state, and thereby becomes the highest becomes the state with the highest number of these persons. What are the key issues which the article wants us to know? That these denotified tribes, they are not enumerated in the census till now. Fine. So let us wind up the article by looking into what are the categories within denotified tribes. So broadly, 3 overlapping groups are considered in these denotified tribe. The first is the denotified tribe itself. It was previously notified under the Criminal Tribes Act. The second is the notified tribes. These are the communities with no permanent settlement. Fine. So that is the point of difference between the two, and depend on mobility. Fine. These include communities such as Banjaras also. Fine. The third is semi-nomadic tribe. They partially settled and they seasonally be mobile also. Collectively, these three are known as DNT, NT and SNT communities, and in the larger umbrella of denotified tribes as such. What are the main demands? Again, on the pretext of non-weak repetitive, they want a separate census column in 2037 census, separate constitutional recognition or a schedule be included. They want a sub-classification to reflect the graded backwardness of their community also. Fine. What are the issue raised? The primary issue is that these denotified tribes are currently scattered across scheduled caste, scheduled tribes, OBCs and unclassified categories also. Thereby, it leads to variable invisibility of their community when it comes to data as such of the government record. Fine. And thereby, welfare schemes related to these communities also suffer. So the next article talks about the recent increase in the union budget for securitization tax as such. So the article titles as Census falls 1.9% due to what? The transaction tax hike to curb speculation trading in FO, but its volume were already down. So the article says, though the move of raising the STT, securitization transaction tax, was being hiked, but the volumes of future and option trading were already on a decline, and thereby somehow it tries to question the move. Fine. So that is about the article as such. Let us go into the depth of it. So what are the key budget and announcement? So the transaction tax on futures that has been increased from 0.02 percentage to 0.05 percentage. On the pretext of it, it may look a very small change, but when you calculate, it's 150 percentage of increase. That is a very steep increase. So people who are operating in futures market, they would very well know, and there will be concerned about the tax being paid to the government as such. The STT on options also is being considered. So the premium paid on the option has been hiked from 0.1 to 0.15 percentage. Again, a very steep increase. The exercise of options, for it was increased from 0.125 to 0.15. What are the objectives stated by the government as such? So the government wanted an end or a curb on speculative trading as such in the FAN sector. It also wanted to generate an additional revenue. So we see that in the previous financial year, the government was able to accrue 63,000 crore of revenue from the FNO trading as such, by taxing the FNO trading through securitization transaction tax. The expected collection in the upcoming fiscal year is approximately 73,700 crore, that is approximately 74,000 crore, that is up by 11,000 crore rupees. Fine, 11K, let's say. So that is an additional income which the government wants to generate. The market related data, though not very important from the point of view of examination, so you can just look at the data and very well understand what was the reaction of the market with regards to when it got the news of the STT being raised. So the Census, it fell by nearly 2 percentage, 1.9 percentage point that day. Nifty 50 closed 2 percentage lower. India VIX, which is the volatility index, it rose by 13 percentage, thereby indicating more volatility in the market. Thereby the FPIs started exiting the market again on a massive scale. The trend in FINO volumes, so trading volumes in single stock and index derivatives have already declined. We have talked about this volume decrease in the very first slide as well, that though the government is talking about curbing the speculative trading in the said market, but the effort trading by volume has currently declined by past 2-3 years, and thereby the move of the government is also being questioned. Fine. Let us look at what is this futures and options. We've talked about FAO thing again and again. Let us look also what is this FAO thing. Before we dive into the FAO thing, let us look what a derivative is. So derivatives are the financial instrument whose value that is derived from an underlying asset. That asset can be some stock, index or commodities. Fine. Commodities such as gold, silver, copper, some agro products may also be there. So we have already seen these derivatives being traded on the stock exchange. A natural corollary of these things are the futures contract and options contract. So it is through these two types of contracts that these derivatives are being traded. So what is the nature of contract we talked about? When it comes to future contracts, there is an agreement to buy or sell an asset at a future date and at a fixed price. There is a slight change when it comes to the options contract. Here there is a contract. Here it was an agreement. Here it's a contract. So contract is obligatory. Fine. And thereby it gives right to buy or sell at a fixed price in future. So that is a small minute point of difference between the future and option contract when it comes to nature of contract. The second and the most important is about the obligation part of it. So here in futures, both buyers and sellers are legally bound to execute the contract at the expiry. So an expiry date is settled, and at that point of time, both the seller and the buyer are expected to execute the contract. whereby in coming to the options part of it, option contract, only seller is obligated and the buyer may choose to exercise it or not, depending on whether he is gaining profit out of the deal or not. Fine. The upfront cost, so here there will be no premiums paid, only margin money is paid by both the parties, whereas in options trading, premium is paid by buyer to the seller. So that is a bit more risky. The risk and return for the buyer, if you realize, so there is unlimited profit and unlimited loss depending on the price movement. Fine. So there will be no cap on it as such. In options contract, the loss limited will be to premium paid. Profit can be very high when it comes to the call option as such. Again, the last point is about the execution at expiry. So there is, we talked about, there is compulsory settlement irrespective of whether you are making profit or whether you are making loss. Here in option trading, that is optional for buyer. So buyer is a bit immune when it comes to option trading, and the contract may lapse if not profitable. So the buyer can book profit through option trading as such, and there is no obligation for him. Next is our topic. The topic was about securities transaction tax. So what it is? So it is a form of direct tax that is levied on the purchase and sale of securities that is traded on a recognized stock exchanges in India. Fine. It is levied and collected by whom? It is levied and collected by the central government and governed through the Securities Transaction Tax Act 2004. This act was part of the Finance Bill or Act now of 2004. So for the first time in 2004, this Securities Transaction Tax was being introduced. The Act, it specifically listed which items will be taxable. Fine. Which securities transaction will be taxable and notify those items in the schedule. We'll look at in the last or the penultimate last slide which are the items taxable. So hold on for that. What are the key features of this STT? So the first feature is it's a transaction based tax. So the tax comes into play when a transaction takes place irrespective of the profit and loss being booked by you. So the transaction will be levied on the value of the transaction. Fine. What is the mode of collection? So it is deducted at the time of transaction, similar as in the case of TDS, that is tax deduction at source. It is collected through stock exchanges or market intermediaries, and it is remitted to the central government. We talked about introduced through Finance Act. What is the objective? So the objective was to simplify taxation of securities trading and to curb tax evasion in capital market. Fine. So that was the objective of it. Again, concluding our argument, the discussion with a list of the securities on which STT is levied and a list on which securities or transactions which are exempted from the STT. My advice to you will be, because not to purely memorize these things, but have a periodic look at this table. You can always have a screenshot of the said thing. Fine. So securities which are taxed through STTs are your equity shares, the derivatives, the futures and options. That has to be there because the articles were about it. The equity oriented mutual fund units, the unlisted shares that is sold under offer for sale in an IPO and subsequently listed. Fine. So these are the four categories of securities on which this securities transaction tax is being levied. Which are exempted is commodities derivatives, currency derivatives, off market transaction that are not routed through stock exchanges in India. So let us know the tax rates. So this STT It rates varies depending on the type of security. That is, it can vary for equity, derivative and mutual fund. It also varies due to nature of transaction, whether you are buying, you are selling, you are delivering or non-delivering as such. So these are the two factors on which it depends. Who has the power to levy and revise the STT? So central government has that power under the said act to revise STT rates periodically. Fine. Some of the important pointers regarding the same which can be helpful when it comes to prelims exam is that again emphasizing that STT is not linked to income or capital gains. It is not considering whether you are making any profit, you are booking any loss or as such. It only is considered with the value of transaction. By it I mean, let us say that you bought a share of let's say 15,000. I bought a share of at rupees 150 per unit. I brought a company share, company is A. Fine. I brought a share at 150 per unit. So the total volume of my transaction is 15,000. After some times, I register a loss and the share comes down at 135 per unit. And I decided, because I needed money at that point of time, I decided to sell this volume in the market. So I traded in the market through a stock exchange and sold it at 13,500. So there is a loss to me because I bought it at 15,000 and I sold it at 13,500. So there is a net loss of rupees 1,500 to me. But despite having a loss, I'll have to again pay a STT at 0.05% of the volume, that is 13,500. Fine. This can be collected by my stock exchange or a regulatory operator as such, or through the platform through which I am trading that unit. Fine. So that is what I mean by that it is not concerned with income or capital gain. Similarly, if I would have booked profit on the said volume and the share would have climbed to 160 per unit, the entire volume of trade would have been taxed rather than whether I am getting profit or loss. Fine. It applies only to exchange traded securities. So we have seen that. Fine. So STT, this helped shift focus from complex capital gain tracking to transaction capital taxation. Again, one of the most important point is that India is among the largest derivative markets globally by volume. Fine. The most important point of this discussion comes at the very last, and it should be highlighted that FAO trading is cash settled in India and there is no physical delivery. So if you buy a derivative backed by let's say by gold or silver or some other metal commodity or some agro based commodity, at the end of the trading cycle you cannot expect physical gold or silver or that metal, let's say copper, tin, other things, or the agro based product which is there. It will be only settled in cash. So you will get that much worth of cash in return for gold or silver or other underlying asset as such. Fine. So you cannot go and claim that because I brought 15,000 rupees ka gold, so I need physical gold now. So that is not the case. Only cash settled transaction is there when it comes to the FN market. Fine. Moving on to the next article. The article is from the Indian Express. It says CCI orders probe into IndiGo's operation meltdown in December. So last December 2025, we saw that this was a failure on part of the IndiGo Airlines to cater to the passenger service in India, and as much as nearly 1600 passenger flights out of the 2200 operating on a single day were cancelled, thereby creating a apprehension in the market, a rush in the market, whereby many people missed a flight and many relatives could not come to their places at times. There were students who missed their important examination. Personally, I saw one of the Karnataka judiciary mains appearing candidate. He did not he was not in a position to go to the respective center because of this crisis, and thereby it created a worse situation in the airline segment in India, and it almost brought the entire segment at the halt. So the CCI, again the Competition Commission of India, it has a role, and it now has initiated an inquiry into the said operational meltdown as such. Thereby the article, we as a student appearing in Prelims 2026 will not be very much concerned about what the CCI is ordering, what is the probe. Rather, I myself is very much concerned about the role of Competition Commission of India, what its jurisdiction about, and what are the limitations. Fine. So let us move ahead. So what are the key facts from the articles which we got? So which was the airline involved? We all know IndiGo was involved. The period of disruption was in December 2025. We saw such a fiasco happening. I already talked about the number. So 1600 flights were cancelled on a single day out of the total volume of 2300 it was operating. Again, the article says that IndiGo has a market share of approximately 65%, fine, of the domestic air passenger traffic. So that's a whooping 2/3 of the domestic air traffic, air passenger traffic is being controlled by a single airlines. What are the allegations which were imposed on this airline as such? So people have stated that it abused its status of dominant market position player. Fine. Again, it was charging high last minute airfares. So we see that due to dynamic fares, due to limited availability of flights, the airfares soared to as much as 90,000, 1 lakh, 1.5 lakhs on a small destination, between two small destinations as such. Fine. Thereby the government had to come in, and it fixed prices between the distances as such to curb on the rising airfare in the said phase. What is the CCI's direction it has initiated? So an investigation under relevant section, that is section 26(1) of the Competition Commission Competition Act 2002 has been initiated, whereby the probe is expected to be completed within a period of 90 days. What are the legal provisions involved? So the Competition Commission Act 2002 is being invoked, whereby section 4, which talks about the abuse of dominant position, is invoked now. This abuse, it includes the three things. First is the unfair and discriminatory pricing, that can also be termed as predatory pricing as such. So here a dominant player might increase or decrease the fares in such a way to eat upon the shares of the less dominant player or the small players in the market. So that kind of pricing is known as predatory pricing. So if I am a dominant player, I may go on and abruptly decrease my flight prices, airfare prices for a certain period of time, so that my competition, the peer competitors, are not able to cope up with the set situation, and they may phase out or merge in me. So to avoid that, to ensure fair competition among the market, such section has been included to uh, to not have this provision of unfair of discriminatory pricing in the market. Again, the second is limiting supply or services, denial of market access. So these are the three causes of abuse which has been included in the Competition Act of 2002. The foremost section of the said act is section 26, which is concerned with the article. So it says that the CCI may order investigation by the Director General if prima facie case exists. So the CCI has asked the Director General to submit a report within 90 days, that is 3 months, and he will submit so. Let us talk about what is this abuse of dominant position. So a firm is dominant if it enjoys a position of strength, enabling it to operate independently of competitive forces, affect competitions or consumers in its favor. So we have already talked about it, giving the example of how a dominant player can affect the small and the less dominant players in the market. Why it is important is because dominance is itself not illegal per se, but abuse of dominance is prohibited. So there is no legal barriers on being dominant in the market. The Indian markets provides for a fair chance for every legal entity, every company to grow. So by the virtue of being dominant in terms of volume, their existence cannot be illegal. But if they abuse, what is the penal provision? So this is an important point. The CCI, it can impose penalty up to 10% of the average turnover in the last, considering the last 3 financial years for them. Fine. Coming to the last part about the Competition Commission of India, which is the moot thing, the important thing why we are concerned with this article is, so this commission was established in the year 2009 under the said act. Fine, the Competition Act of 2002. The Administrative Ministry and Ministry of Corporate Affairs as such. Fine. It consists of 7-member commission where a chairperson is also involved. So chairperson plus 6 others are part of the commission and look after the working of the said commission as such. Fine. So what are the role of this Competition Commission? So the first and the foremost is to eliminate the practices having adverse effect on the competition. In the very famous case of Uber versus Google, the CCI, it directed Google not to restrict app developers from distributing apps via side loading. What is side loading? So side loading is installing apps on a device from outside the official app store. So many times we see .apk files. Fine, many of us are aware of these files, and these are the files which are officially not listed on Google Play Store, and in the said case Google tried to prevent app developers from not installing on their Android devices as such, but the commission, it allowed app developers to let install on the Android phone also as such. Fine. The second is about protecting the interest of consumers. So by providing a level playing field to everyone around, so that the consumers may get different options also in the market, it protects the right and interest of the consumers also. An example was where the commission, it fined Meta for abusing dominance by sharing WhatsApp user data with other Meta company. So Meta argued that because it is the umbrella organization, parent company, so interoperability of data within the different units of Meta can be done, but the commission, it went ahead and protected the interest of the consumer, and it asked Meta to pay fine for the abuse of its dominant position in the market. Third is to advise the government on competition issue. Fine. The last one here is about the inquiry, investigation, passing orders and imposing penalty on anti-competitive practices. The commission also has a power of civil court as such, thereby it can summon or it can accrue evidences as such. Fine. In the Google search bias case, it imposed a whooping penalty of 135 crore. So there were certain search biases when it came to Google based on religion, race, identity and other aspects, and thereby the commission ruled in against Google for 135 crore. Next is about regulating merger. So the commission, it sits on these mergers, whether it was the case of Walmart, Flipkart, or the merger of Vodafone Hutch, if you are aware of those things. It also evaluates concerns such as predatory pricing, deep discounting, impact on offline retailers. So it sees whether two dominant market players are two big players in the market are coming together with not with the intent of being a dominant player in the market, and thereby they can leverage their position by giving predatory prices or deep discounts, and thereby affecting the offline retailers also. The last of the lot is adopting to evolving challenges. So we see that there are evolving situations coming in the consumer market as such. AI is one of the tool which is affecting the market as such. Industry 4.0 is affecting the market again with its own nature. So digital market division was constituted by the commission to to cope up with the challenges posed by digitization to ensure fair competition in the market. It also studies technology and its impact on competition. Also, it is assisting in work related to draft the digital competition bill. So some of the other functions which the commission is doing. Fine. So the last article for the day is about IIT-Bombay's research that it is claiming to overcome a key cancer therapy bottleneck. So the article will be talking about the bottleneck, the limitation which the present cancer therapy, that is CAR T. So that is the present therapy in market that has been approved also in India. This technique is running through a small bottleneck as such, and IIT-Bombay claims to have overcome that. The article is talking about this, what the institute is proposing. It appeared in Indian Express on 7th of February. Fine. So let us dive into the article and look how it can help us to solve one of the questions if it appears in the prelims examination. So what is this CAR T cell therapy all about? So before coming into what is CAR T therapy, let us talk about T cells. So T cells, these are white blood cells that are central to immune response. These are type of a lymphocyte. Fine. You will be hearing about T cells and B cells. One of the tasks which I can suggest you that is beyond the scope of present discussion is to tabulate the difference between T cell and B cells. This can come very handy, and we also had a PYQ when it comes to the difference between the two. Fine. So these are a type of white blood cells that act as the body's frontline soldiers against what? Against infections, pathogens and different kinds of allergies. They patrol the blood stream and tissues looking for infection and abnormal cells such as cancer. What they do is, when they detect a threat, they either kill the harmful cell directly or they signal to the other immune cell to join the fight against that pathogen as such. When it kills the harmful cell itself, it is through the T cell only. When it asks other cells to join the fight, it is through B cell. That is one of the differences, but I can tell you at this moment. The rest you have to tabulate yourself. Fine. So what the full form of the therapy as such, we all know, is chimeric antigen receptor T cell therapy. A type of immunotherapy it is, where the treatment is done using one's own body immune system. So one's own body system, immune system is strengthened, and body is being trained to fight the infection on their own rather than giving some external stimulus. Fine. So what it is? So we've talked about the acronym. It is chimeric antigen receptor T cell therapy. It is a innovative immunotherapy in which T cells are genetically modified. We'll see what is the process. They are genetically modified to express a receptor, that is CAR, that target specific proteins on cancer cells. Fine. What is the objective? So the objective is very simple, that they treat blood cancers, especially the B acute lymphoblastic leukemia and the non-Hodgkin lymphoma, and the trials are still going on for the solid tumors as such. So for this the trials are going on, but for this these two, the B-AL and B-NHL, for these two the therapy has proven successful, though a limitation as such when it comes to foreign countries is that it costs a whopping of 3-4 crores rupees when treated outside. Fine. So that is a limitation of being expensive. Who are the aimed patient as here? So the patient whose disease is either lapsed or was resistant to the conventional treatment are also the target audience of this therapy. Fine. They specifically are targeting the CD19. Who are targeting? The T cells. The T cell, they target CD19. What is this CD19? CD19, it's a protein found on the surface of B cells, which include cancerous B cells. So these are the source, this CD19 protein, and thereby one should remember, and it can be asked in the examination also. Fine. How does this CAR T cell therapy work? So the first step is the T cell collection. So the T cells are collected from the patient's blood cells. Fine. From the blood cells through RBCs, these T cells are collected. The second is, from this there is a engineer reprogramming that is being done. In these collected T cells, there is these T cells then are equipped with these CAR, that is chimeric antigen receptors. Fine. These CAR, these are like GPS. So they help to track the location of cancerous cell. So these CAR, they help to identify the cancerous cells that are we talked about, the likes of CD19, which are there in the B cells also. Fine. So these what they do is they get equipped with the CAR and they move through the blood supply to find the cancerous cell. Fine. And after finding, they kill the cancer cell as such. But once this CAR is equipped on a normal T cell, the third step is the expansion. A small amount of CAR is loaded. After that, it is genetically modified and the T cells are allowed to multiply into billions in the lab. Fine. Remember this step. It is very important, and here only one of the limitations come. Then the fourth step is the chemotherapy and infusion. So these CAR T cells are infused again into the patient after a brief course of chemotherapy, and these cancer cells are destroyed because these CAR T cells, they multiply in the blood supply and they find the cancer cells and they kill them. Fine. So that is the process of CAR T cell therapy. A limitation comes at this stage of multiplication. So when these T cell solutions are loaded with CAR, they are done either on a 2D surface or with help of some solutions as such, some chemical solutions. So the limitations of 2D surface is then that when retrieving these for the after expansion phase, the fluid gets a bit destroyed and we are not able to extract it to the fullest of it. Fine. The CAR loaded also on T cells gets affected and thereby reducing its effectiveness. So IIT-Bombay thereby has come with a proposed solution. Fine. And that will look ahead. So that was the limitation we talked about. Let us look what was the solution. So it is being jointly developed by IIT-Bombay and Tata Memorial Center since 2015. It is being approved by DGCI. Fine. The first phase, it was approved in 2021 only. Fine. What are the future scope for phase 2? So phase 1 trial we talked about, it was conducted from 2021 to 23 on children and adolescents with BAL, we talked about this before, and with adults on BNHL. Fine. With promising results matching international standards and terms of efficacy and safety also. Phase 2 trials, these are also been approved and are currently ongoing. Fine. So what are the bottlenecks? So when the multiplication was being done in a 2D surface, there was a need of large number of healthy T cells, but because of the extraction phase, the cells were being disturbed and the 2D cultures were inefficient as such. So IIT-Bombay has introduced a 3D biomaterial scaffold that will improve growth. Fine. So that is the revolution which the research is talking about. But again, it makes cell retrieval difficult. So the article talks about 3 different chemicals as such, not very important for the examination, that is why I not mentioned. And the third of the lot has been deployed because it allows minimum damage during extraction. Fine. So minimum damage is ensured during extraction using the third kind of solution. Fine. What we have to remember here is about the 3D biomaterial scaffold which is being employed apart from the conventional 2D cultures which were found insufficient for the task. Fine. What are the key findings from the study as such? It found difficulty in retrieving viable T cells after growing them on the 3D biomaterial scaffold. What was the solution developed? So solution was manually dissolving the biomaterial scaffold using a growth medium. So the third type of growth medium was preferred here, and it was using a relatively less harsh enzyme but with a low concentration. Fine. It ensured a higher yield and survival of the T cells, which we have already talked about before also. The outcome nevertheless was retrieved T cells remain functional and healthy, and they continue to proliferate, so that better targeting of the cancerous cells by these T cells can be done. Fine. Thereby, as a whole, the entire profitability, reliability and affordability of the therapy as such can be ensured. Fine. Significance, we talked about it improves cell recovery efficiency, cost of therapy can be reduced, it enhances feasibility of indigenously development of CAR T therapy. It also supports India's efforts in advanced cancer therapeutics. Fine. So, sadly, India has become one of the major countries affected by the cancer disease. Recently, we had the case where Telangana was spotted as the hotbed of the cancer patients in India. Fine. The last of the lot, we talked about the CAR T therapy in India. So, India's first indigenous CAR T therapy is known as NextCAR 19. Fine. Our task, because that is not in the scope of this discussion, is to read about this NextCAR. That can be asked in the examination also. It is being developed by IIT-Bombay and Tata Memorial Centers, approved by DGCI, and the cost is also simpler. That is the case. I hope that you had a good learning today and will help to improve on your scores in prelims. Thank you and have a nice day.